The story begins with them walking towards the watershed along a narrow path shrouded in morning mist, their steps softly treading on the damp earth, leaving barely noticeable traces. They decide to tie their hands with red threads, thin and silky, intertwining them so tightly, as if they want to unite their destinies forever, to share eternity for two, sealing an oath that no one can break. Suddenly, they are hit by a car, huge and dark, bursting out from around the corner with a roar of the engine, as if death itself decided to block their path. He thinks that he has entered the afterlife, where everything around looks too perfect: neat streets paved with cobblestones, old lanterns with a warm light, the air filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread. Everything was in a European style, as if it came from a postcard. They tell him that this is not the afterlife, but a place where only the chosen ones go, and he is greeted as an adventurer, a man whose fate is now intertwined with the secrets of this strange place, where reality is mixed with something inexplicable. A guide comes to him, a woman with a piercing gaze and a soft smile, dressed in a long dress that sways with every movement, and her name is Annette. She asks him to look out the window, wide and bright, through which golden light pours, painting everything around in warm tones, and to rejoice that he came here, because people like him are not chosen often, and it is a great honor to be in this place. A great destiny awaited him, full of trials and accomplishments, and to help them, those who believed in his power, who were waiting for his appearance to change the course of events. Sensei understood that the double murder he had planned in desperation had failed, never being carried out, and now he had found himself in a strange place where the rules seemed to be rewritten, where everything was different from the world he knew. A sleeping pill approached Annette's feet, a small bottle of clear liquid that fell from the shelf with a dull thud, which the boy had drunk, wanting to forget, but instead found himself here, in this strange world where even death seemed different. She eventually healed him, gently placing her hand on his forehead and whispering words that sounded like an ancient spell, filled with a power he couldn't understand. But he didn't want that, because he was a future hero, chosen for great things, and he had to save a city that didn't even know his name, that maybe wasn't even waiting for him. The protagonist didn't want that. His heart was broken, and he just wanted to end his life already, to no longer feel pain, to finally find the peace he was so desperately looking for. The truck wasn't an accident, not a simple coincidence, but a great device, a mechanism of fate, because only the chosen ones get hit by it and are given the right to start all over again, like turning the page of an old book to write a new story. If you get hit by a truck, you were unhappy in a world where everything went wrong, where every day was a struggle, but all the bad things are now behind you, remaining only a bitter memory that will no longer torment your soul. The protagonist explains that they prevented him from committing a double suicide with his beloved, destroying his last hope for peace. And who are they anyway to talk about happiness when they themselves do not know what real loss is, when their hands did not tremble with despair, and their hearts did not break with pain? Annette looks at his characteristics, a piece of paper covered with lines that shimmer in the light of the lamp, and is surprised, because he was already 1 foot in the grave, his soul barely holding on to this world, clinging to life as to the last straw. She looks further, reading every word, and understands that he has no skills, nothing that could make him useful here, and she has never seen anything like this, because usually those who were ready for trials, who had the strength to change the world, came here. Sensei decides to go, turning towards the door, when he is stopped and told that he has ended up by mistake in a world where everyone has their place, and he has no right to live here, as if he is superfluous even here. This made him laugh, because he never felt complete anywhere, he was superfluous everywhere, and everyone drove him away, as if he brought misfortune with him, as if his presence was a curse. In her youth, she accepted her duty with great pride, standing at the gates of this world and meeting those whom fate had chosen. Her eyes then shone with hope, and her heart was open to each new guest. Meeting guests from other worlds made her happy, because each brought a new story with them, each was like a book full of secrets and adventures. But with the years came disappointment, and the fire in her eyes went out, leaving only a cold emptiness. Annette became distant, cold as the winter wind, and turned to the machine, the mechanism that she thought could choose heroes better, so that they would come normal, strong and ready to fight, and not like him broken and lost. Sensei was leaving, already crossing the threshold, when he was offered to take up a profession, to become someone new, but he was already a writer, and words were his only weapon, the only thing he had left. He says goodbye to her forever, calling her beautiful, and these words sounded like a final gift, like a farewell glance at what could have been, but did not happen. All this time she was waiting for this gentleman, the one whose soul was broken, but in whose eyes there was still a spark, the one who could perhaps restore her faith. All this time she was waiting for his arrival, not knowing that he would be the one who would change everything, who would turn her world upside down. Sensei looks at the signs hanging along the street, but understands that he does not understand the text. The letters merge into incomprehensible patterns, and he will not find a cafe where he could rest, where he could finally catch his breath. They congratulate him, because he unexpectedly discovered a great plain, endless and sunlit, and receives 5 experience points, as if life has turned into a game where every step is a new level. He asks not to dig him up, not to ask unnecessary questions, because migraines are already preventing him from thinking, and his head is splitting into pieces, as if someone had driven nails into it. How suddenly a girl, fragile and scared, is grabbed by a tree, its branches wrap around her like snakes, and she can help, because if nothing is done, she can die, disappearing forever, as if she never existed. Sensei asks her if he can write a book about her, make her story immortal, and she is completely shocked by this, not understanding how he can think about creativity at such a moment, and asks him to save her, her voice trembling with fear, and her eyes full of tears. He raises his hands, trying to reach her, and tries to jump, but he too is grabbed by the thin but incredibly strong roots, because they do not have long to live, and the tree is not going to let go of its prey, squeezing tighter and tighter. The tree sucked the lives of the victims, slowly and methodically, and then went to another world, taking with it their last moments, their last thoughts and desires. Sensei feels how life leaves him, his strength is leaving, and he tries to die, to finally find peace, to no longer feel this pain that has haunted him all his life. But suddenly the tree begins to harden, its bark cracks, and then bursts, crumbling into thousands of pieces, as if someone had broken a crystal vase. The protagonist is sad, his body hurts, and he understands that everything inside him is saturated with poison, a poison that corrodes him from the inside, turning every movement into torment. This always happened when he wanted to die, but luck did not smile so, leaving him on the verge between life and death, between hope and despair. Tama, the same girl, asked him not to hang his head, smiling through tears, and was glad that they survived, thanked him for this, because without him she would not exist, she would have become another victim of this damn tree. She offers to go to her home, where it will be safe, and he can rest, where, perhaps, he will finally find what he was looking for. He remembers his girlfriend, her warm hands and voice when she touched him, and at that moment a fire lights up in his heart, small but so bright, like a star in the darkness. He has found a reason to continue living in this strange and incomprehensible world, and he swears that he will find her, wherever she is, and then they will meet death together, as they promised, as they dreamed. Annette prays, kneeling before the altar, and asks the higher powers to protect the adventurer, the one who can possibly change everything, who can rewrite the fate of this world. Sensei comes to her, and they are glad to see him, as if they were waiting for his return, as if they knew that he would return, no matter what. Tama was with him, asking him to go home again, because he was her savior, the one who gave her a second chance. The girl's hands are slapped, harshly and painfully, because she took his hand in public, breaking the rules of decency, as if her action was something shameful. She tells him that he felled a tree, doing the impossible, and now she owes her life to him, because without him she would already be dead, would already be part of this damned place. Sensei decides to take a nap in the coffin, a strange but comfortable place, and he liked this bed very much, as if it was made especially for him, as if someone knew that he would come. She drags the coffin, trying not to make noise, but the rope, old and frayed, breaks, leaving him in the middle of the way, as if fate itself decided to play a cruel joke on them. They dragged the coffin along an uneven road, feeling how their muscles strained from the unbearable weight, and they understood that it was too heavy, that this load seemed to be filled with lead and not just wooden boards. And the guy himself did not answer, because he was sleeping soundly. His breathing was even and calm, as if he did not notice all this fuss around him. Sensei smiled, looking at the dark sky, strewn with stars, remembering his beloved, her warm hands and voice, which sounded in his memory like the most beautiful melody, and promised that he would find her, wherever she was, and then they would leave the world together, as he dreamed. The coffin is opened with the creak of old hinges, and they are asked to get out, because they have come to a city where the lights in the windows of houses shone welcomingly, promising rest and peace. The main character gets out, rubbing his eyes, and sees that the world is different, not as gloomy as he expected, and not as bad as it seemed in the first minutes. Thomas, a tall man with kind eyes, along with his daughter, a little girl who hid behind him, welcomed them at the threshold of their home and allowed them to spend the night with them, offering warm food and soft beds, and he also asked for a story, wanting to know where these strange travelers came from. Sensei had no objections, he just nodded, wearily sinking into a chair, and could tell how he spent the night in a coffin, as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. The king, a stately man in luxurious clothes, with a crown on his head, asked for help, folding his hands as if pleading, and brought the suitors, lined up in a row, each of them trying to look like a worthy choice. Monsters were approaching them, their shadows fell on the walls, and the king was no longer old enough to fight, and he decided to find her a husband, strong and brave, and then inherit the throne, becoming the new ruler of these lands. Charlotte, a young princess with sad eyes, did not know who would be worthy, and so she asked for help, looking at each of the contenders with doubt. He had no words, he only looked at the king, seeing a tyrant in front of him, an incomplete ruler who could not even protect his daughter. The girls apologized for his words, lowering their eyes, because everyone was guilty, and there was no need to execute anyone, because this would only make the situation worse. At night, he could not sleep, he tossed and turned on his bed, and there was no peace in his heart, as if something was gnawing at him from the inside. Tama slept between his legs, curled up like a kitten, and they began to beat her, because this is how she is accustomed, this is how she was raised from childhood, to know her place. He goes out into the hallway, walking barefoot on the cold floor, and notices Charlotte standing by the window, looking out at the moonlit view, because their lake is beautiful, and she wanted to drown herself to get rid of all this pain. Gomez, a tall man with cold eyes, has only just arrived, but has already done a lot, gaining trust and authority among the courtiers. Otto, a thin young man with a lute in his hands, has known her since childhood, and when she is sad, he always calms her with his melodies that flow like a stream. He asks her to listen to her heart, putting her hand on her chest, and understand what she really wants, and not others. The king called them in a loud voice to see who his daughter has chosen, and everyone froze in anticipation. Charlotte, with trembling hands, could not understand who she wanted to be with, and after a long pause, she chooses the main character, pointing her finger at him. Everyone was shocked, their faces expressed bewilderment that she wanted to die with him, because it sounded like madness. The girl explains that Gomez stinks of sweat and lies, and Otto not only plays with her, but also with everyone, just bragging about his talent. She screams at her father, her voice trembling with anger, because none of them care about her feelings, except for the man with dark hair, because he himself said that you need to choose with your heart, not your mind. Gomez became big, his figure seemed to grow in size, and it turned out that he wanted to give these lands to his main man, and who would have thought that his princess would reveal all the cards? He wants to kill everyone, his eyes are full of hatred, and everyone runs to protect the king, but they are torn apart at first, like chips. Otto decides to sing a song for Tama so that she can fight better, and his voice sounds like a battle cry. She hits the bull, her sword sparkles in the air, but he scratches her, because the horns are sharp as razors. The main character asks to kill them from the beginning, his voice is calm, because they want death, and she herself wanted it for the first time, having felt the taste of battle. The bull laughs, his laughter echoes throughout the hall, and will gladly send them to another world, and then kill the king and burn the city to the ground. The bull wishes them a good road, ironically bowing when Charlotte understands that she does not want to die, because she is too young and wants to live, protecting her subjects, like a real ruler. He removes her behind his back, covering her with himself, and says that the role of a lover is beyond his strength, because he is not a hero from fairy tales. Annette creates a shield, her hands glow with blue light, because while she is near, they will never die, her magic is strong. Tama makes the final blow, putting all her strength into it, and the enemy flies into the water, disappearing into the dark abyss. Otto decided to sing again, this time for their strong friendship, which was born in battle. The king kneels, his pride broken, and asks for forgiveness for wanting to marry her off so early, without asking her opinion. Charlotte asks to discuss the future of the kingdom together, her voice is now firm, and also the rest of what worries them all. There were monsters near the gate, their shadows flickering in the darkness, and the girl says that they should go fight, because it is their duty. They carry the coffin again, now empty, and discuss what happened, sharing impressions, as if it was just another story from their lives. Tama wanted to eat, her stomach traitorously rumbled, demanding food, and they decide to make a stop in a picturesque clearing surrounded by tall trees. The protagonist is given bread, stale and dry, although he wanted boiled tofu, soft and tender, like in childhood memories. They built a path, discussing every turn and fork, and eventually decided to look somewhere, where Annette so desperately wanted. Her eyes burned with a special shine at the thought of this place. As a rule, they ended up in one of 4 temples, ancient and mysterious, and from there they set off in search of the Prince of Darkness, whose name brought terror to the entire area. They understand that they might have to look for Satchan in different temples, sorting through every stone in search of clues. Tama said that she really fell in love with him. Her cheeks turned pink at these words, although he made excuses, trying to be polite but firm. She watched him furtively, hiding around corners, to find out if he was in love with Satchan, or if it was just rumors. A familiar flew to them, small and nimble, and she hoped that he gave the letter clutched in his tiny paws, although he simply threw the letter away, casually flapping his wing. The protagonist lay down in the coffin again, settling into his cramped space as usual, and the girl was worried that she would be fired from her job because of all these strange events. A dragon came to them, huge and fierce, screaming so loudly that the ground shook under their feet. Woldelia approached from behind, her steps were silent, and stopped the dragon, speaking in another language, ancient and mysterious, which was not understood by anyone present. Sensei climbed out of the coffin, rubbing his stiff back, because he wanted to eat, and his stomach reminded him of itself with an insistent rumbling. Waldelia wanted to kill him, her eyes blazing with cold fury, and began to attack, swinging her sword, but the girl made a shield, bluish and translucent, at the last moment. They all fell to the ground, knocked down by a powerful wave of energy, but they had to protect the master at any cost, even at the cost of their own lives. The girl had the symbol of the Prince of Wrath, a mysterious sign glowing on her palm, and the protagonist begged him to stop, his voice trembling, asking him to look closely, because her enemy was in front of her, and he could accept death if necessary. He was pierced by a razor-sharp blade, and he fell to the ground, where blood spread, scarlet and warm. He holds the hole in his chest, feeling his life slipping through his fingers, and says that he wanted to stab the man and sent him a threatening letter, and he sees a reflection of his old self in her, just as lost and angry, and asks to tell him the reason for her hatred. She calls the dragon, her voice sounds like an order, and flies away, her figure quickly disappearing into the sky, because she does not understand what it was, and who he is at all, this strange man. Isha takes Annette's hand, her fingers trembling, and asks him to hold on, because there are still many trials ahead. The girl asks him to help the guy. Her eyes are full of tears, and they eventually bring medicine, hurrying as fast as possible. Morning comes, the sun rises above the horizon, and the protagonist takes the poison, a small vial with a clear liquid, and drinks it. Although he almost died last time, his body is still weak from his wounds. The girl is surprised, her eyes wide open, because he quickly recovered, as if his wound had never existed. Isha was glad that she ran away from work, her face was shining with happiness, but she was unhappy that she was with that man, and they do different things, their paths have long diverged. Kotaro comes to them, cheerful and noisy, who raps, beating the rhythm with his palms, and asks not to argue, but to hang out together, the three of them, forgetting about their problems. They make a lot of money, wringing coins pour from hand to hand, and ask to stay with him, because he knows how to have a good time. Isha explains, sighing, that they are all like this, and nothing can be done about it. Sensei comes, his shadow falls to the ground, and asks for money for a potion, without which he cannot survive. The girl explains, folding her arms on her chest, that he has no gift, and he defeated the Prince of Wrath, although no one believed in it. Isha says her voice sounds uncertain, that it was broken by people, and she confuses in general, not knowing the whole truth. Tama was in shock, her mouth opened in surprise that the Prince of Wrath was killed, and it was 7 days ago. Perhaps now there will be peace and quiet, which everyone dreamed of. Sensei tears the papers, his movements are sharp, and laughs, because he wants to commit suicide, and also decided to write a text, but it did not work, and it was complete despondency, from which, it seemed, there was no way out. Annette suggests taking a walk, her voice sounds encouraging, because you need to buy a lot of things for the journey, and you can't do without supplies. They give him armor, heavy and clumsy, which was too big for him, as if it was crushed by a slab, not allowing him to breathe freely. Isha decides to keep the girl with her, her hand is on Tama's shoulder, and everything will be bad with him, because he always gets into trouble. But the protagonist explains, his words sounding firm, that she decides for herself, and she is not a bird in a cage for others to decide for her. Suzuki came to them, important and stately. He was a great man, and he had great news that the demon prince was killed. His voice boomed like thunder. He says that now is the golden age of heroes, and everyone can breathe easy. The guy calls Annette a bad girl, his voice sounds playful, and asks her to be good, smiling at her. The girl was in a cage, her thin fingers squeezed the bars, and her eyes, previously bright, became a deep brown color, like tarnished jewelry, and the guy rapped, rhythmically swaying, saying that she will become a slave. His words sounded like an ominous prophecy. A heavy hand is placed on Tama's head and she is asked to calm down while Suzuki laughs, his laughter echoing throughout the room, because no one can escape this inevitable fate. Isha screams, her voice shaking with rage, because she does not remember that she taught him this way to use the power she entrusted to him. The boy decides to tear everything down, his eyes burning with determination, and build a new kingdom where only he will set the rules. The house is burned, bright tongues of flame lick the wooden walls, because the wolves emitted flames from their mouths like living torches. The cat beats Sensei, her claws leaving scratches on his face, but she could not finish him off because of the armor that reliably protected his body. Having broken it, applying all his strength, he hits the girl, and in the end she falls like a mown-down flower. He puts her in a barrel, dark and cramped, and at that moment Isha lands in the ground, raising a cloud of dust, and she says that they are all like this. Her voice sounds tired, and remembers that Suzuki was not like this from the beginning. There was light in his eyes once. He writes in a book, his pen glides quickly over the pages, and senses that the young man will be able to inspire him, to become a muse for a new work. He goes to the enemy, his steps are confident, because he understands that he can write a new masterpiece that will shake the world. Isha went with him, her face expressing concern, and says that they have no chance, because the monsters will tear him to pieces, leaving no trace. He drinks the poison, the liquid burns his throat, and opens the door to him, as if entering another dimension. The guy says he wants to write a book about him. His eyes are burning with interest, because the story will be about a weak person, and he sees human nature in his fall, which attracted him like a magnet. The guy raises the wolves, his hands are shaking from the tension, and asks to execute the guy. His voice sounds like a sentence. Isha does magic, her fingers glow blue, and kills the wolves, but one attacks, his fangs shine in the moonlight. The rest make fire, bright and hot, which cannot hit him because of the familiar's armor, reliably protecting his body. Suzuki had a favorite animal, faithful and devoted, who bites the main character and turns into stone, as if frozen in time. Kotaro screams, his voice trembling with fear, and runs away, while money pours out of him, gold coins ring, falling to the ground. Suzuki does not want to lose, his face is distorted with anger, and asks Annette to kill them. His words sound like a last order. Sensei goes to her, his steps are slow, and says that she will decide for herself how to live. His voice sounds soft, and as far as he knows, she is not a bird in a cage, for others to decide for her. Blood flows from her hand, scarlet and warm, and she trembles like an aspen leaf. The girl hits her leg, her face is distorted with pain, so as not to attack anyone, and the master grabs her in his arms. His embrace is strong and reliable. Isha decides to treat her wounds. Her movements are careful, because she is not weak, but strong in spirit. Suzuki falls to his knees, his body trembling, because nothing worked, and he takes a knife, its blade glittering in the light of the torches, to kill himself. We see that he was bullied at school, his face is bruised and beaten, leaving scars not only on his body, but also on his soul. He was a coward all his life, his shoulders hunched under the weight of fear, and was a slave, tried to settle scores with his life, but did not have enough courage to take the last step. And then he was hit by a car, the bright headlights blinded him, and he met Isha, who asked to defeat the Prince of Wrath. Her eyes were full of hope. Then he tamed wolves, his hands trembled when he stroked their fur, because this was his power, given to him by fate. Everyone was discussing him, whispering behind his back, because he was an alien from another world, and then he simply used magic on them. His fingers glowed with a strange light. The main character liked the text, he reread it again and again, and he had just put an end to the story, because he had failed to become no one, and this is an incomplete hero, as he felt. The book suddenly begins to shine, its pages shimmer with all the colors of the rainbow, and they thank him, because he wrote a work that he was pleased with, but it cannot be called a masterpiece. Something important was missing in it. There was a big explosion, the light blinded everyone, and Suzuki was no longer there, because he was returned to his native world, where a new life awaited him. The master also acquired a skill, new and unusual, and could contact other people from another world. His mind expanded its boundaries. The monsters began to leave the city, their shadows dissolved in the darkness, and no longer attacked, leaving people alone. They made him a new coffin, the wood smelled fresh, which was perfect, as if it was made especially for him. Isha says that a difficult journey awaits her, her voice sounds sad, and let her support the master, because he needs her. In this world, the story of the hero Suzuki has ended, but in another it depends on him, on his choices and decisions. Then they leave the girl, their figures dissolving in the fog, leaving behind only memories. We are in another region, where the air is saturated with the smell of pine and dampness, where Isha has moved, her cloak fluttering in the wind, where she is met by Wolf, his eyes clouded with drink, who has been drinking for several days and could not resist the bottle, because he hates someone whose name he shouted in his drunken delirium. Elton came up, his white robes contrasting with the dirt under his feet, and asked to stop talking like that on sacred ground. His voice sounded like a bell calling for order. His origin, simple and unremarkable, meant nothing in this place, and he says that it is necessary to lead the people differently. His words are full of wisdom accumulated over the years. They sit at a table, roughly knocked together from unplanned boards, and Miller, rubbing the bridge of his nose, apologizes for calling them at such a late hour, and they needed to know their condition, because things in the kingdom were not going well. Arya also came to them. Her dress was covered in dust, having fallen on the stairs, having tripped on a slippery step, and hit her head, leaving a bruise on her pale skin. She was put in place of another person, the one who could not come, and everything was the same for her before, except for Charlotte, who looked at her with an incomprehensible grin. Everything was calm at Elton's. His office was a model of order, and he asked not to be late, his fingers tapping on the table in time with his impatience. Everything was bearable at Wolf's, if you do not count the eternal hangover, and some was the norm, as he liked to say himself, spitting through yellow teeth. There was a pogrom in Isha's village, houses stood with broken windows, and the inhabitants restored them, hunched over from fatigue, and they were called about the aliens, whose traces they found by the river. The princes of darkness and wrath had fallen, their black banners had been burned, and now the gates would be sealed so that no one could pass through them again. Unfortunately, 7 aliens, dressed in strange robes, had become rulers, and they declared that they would create a utopia here, their voices sounding like a promise that no one asked for. The holiness was defeated, his staff lay broken, having thought all this time that the aliens were on his side, and they had thrown the battle to their church, leaving them defenseless. Also the fallen aliens, those who could not hold on to power, began to sow discord in the world, their whispers spreading through the cities like a plague. A new era was beginning, the air seemed to tremble with change, and it was necessary to fight the aliens before they destroyed everything that was dear. Isha says they have a way, her eyes shining with excitement. There is a man who sent a man to another world, and it is possible to send people there if you find the right words. The holiness comes, his robe dragging on the floor, and everyone bows before him, heads bowed, and he asks to tell about the otherworlder, his voice trembling with anger. The girl thinks about her betrothed, her fingers fiddling with the hem of her dress, while they pour her wine, dark as the night itself. They are left alone, in a room where only a single torch burns, and they need to watch over the world while the others sleep. They decide to stop for the night, their legs humming with fatigue, and the girl has become stronger from dragging the coffin. Her muscles are now hard as stone. The boy sits on the tablet, his legs dangling in the air, and decides to tell them everything, his voice sounding uncertain, but his eyes are shining. He helps uncertain travelers, those who were afraid to take a step, and gives them aliens, as if he were handing out candy. It was for 40,000, an amount that made Annette think, and decides to buy, her wallet noticeably lighter. The protagonist gets up, his shadow covered the boy, and scares him, because he thought that he died and therefore lies in a coffin. His voice sounded like the creak of unlubricated hinges. Nair takes the money, his fingers quickly counted the coins, and asked to wait. His smile was too sweet to trust. Night falls, the moon hid behind the clouds, and the guy says that he will not return. His words hung in the air like a sentence. The woman grabs her head, her fingers dug into her hair, because this Nair fooled many people. His name was synonymous with deception, because in life he did not see heroes, only in fairy tales. She tells him that he is an orphan, his parents died long ago, and he settled near the village, lives on the money that he gets by deceiving people. His sly grin was familiar to everyone. Everyone snorted at him, but he never saw heroes. If there were, they would have pulled him out of this swamp in which he was stuck up to his ears. He had a golden sword, which looked like the real thing, but upon closer inspection turned out to be a fake, and then he was captured. His hands trembled in handcuffs. The bandits counted the money, their dirty fingers feverishly sorted through the coins, because they were lucky and these people were just otherworlders. Their eyes glowed with a strange light. They were sick of him, his smell was worse than a dead rat, and they decided to make justice. Their voices sounded like the rumble of thunder. When they wanted to shoot him, the bowstring was pulled, then Sensei came, his cloak fluttering in the wind, and said that they do not know how to be called heroes. His words cut like a knife, because children can imitate their behavior, taking evil for good. He asked to say one more time about death, his eyes burned with a cold fire, and at that moment his health increased, the wounds healed before their eyes. The main character asked to shoot at the very heart, his chest was open for a blow, but they ran away, their backs quickly disappeared into the darkness. Morning comes, the sun has just risen above the horizon, and the girls understand that he did not get enough sleep. His eyes were red from insomnia. Nair comes, his clothes were dirty, and they shout at him, their voices merged into one loud reproach, and then he joins them, his shoulders were hunched over with shame. They walk along the road, dust rising from under their feet, and the boy is congratulated on finding the castle, its walls visible in the distance. They have come to where they wanted, their hearts are beating faster with anticipation, and Tama is interested in how her friends who remained in the village are doing. They come to the gate, huge and bound with iron, and suddenly the guards are called, their armor shining in the sun, who surround them. Their spears are aimed at the chests of the travelers. Because they are arrested, their freedom has ended as suddenly as this journey began. Everyone is doing different things. Someone was sleeping, covered up to the ears with a blanket. Someone was crying, wiping away tears with a dirty sleeve. The boy, scratching the back of his head, asked to tell how they carry out executions, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. Nair decides to open the lock, his thin fingers deftly wielding the master key, but he is stopped, grabbed by the collar. They are tied up, the ropes digging into their skin, when the protagonist, without blinking an eye, asked to kill them. His voice sounded calm. They are brought to the king, sitting on the throne, and they are told that they will be executed. The executioner's words sounded like a sentence. They stole Tama, because she was a princess, her golden hair betrayed her noble origin. The girl herself comes, her steps ringing in the hall, and explains that no one stole and simply traveled the world to hone her martial arts. Her fists were covered in calluses, and on the way she met them, nodding towards the tied ones. He decides to pardon them if they obey him, and let her become a normal daughter of the ruler. His gaze slid over her shabby clothes, or better yet, follow the example of her mother, who was sitting next to him, her hands folded on her knees. She finally agrees, hanging her head, and swears that she will be a proper princess, her voice shaking with suppressed emotion. They arrive at a cafe smelling of freshly baked goods and eat food, chewing each bite while Sensei takes pills, swallowing them one by one. While they were on the road, the dust of the road settled on their clothes. Annette insulted her a lot, offensive words hung in the air like clouds. The waitress, adjusting her apron, knew her and several years ago was her lady-in-waiting. Her eyes widened with recognition. He tells, waving his fork, that this is an amazing girl and could not be indifferent, and he did not care who she was, because she will always be a lady. His words made her blush. She looked up the roof, where the shadow of a man loomed, and her father was with an army, his armor sparkling in the sun. A man came to him, licking his lips, and wanted to taste his meat, his fingers drumming nervously on the table. It turned out that it was Kaibara, whose name made people tremble, who was one of the saviors and killed the Prince of Darkness. His cloak was sewn from the skins of defeated enemies. He came here to eat their kingdom. His stomach growled from hunger. The guards, looking at each other, said that now he will know everything. Their spears trembled in their hands. As suddenly, their jaws bite, tearing flesh, and kill, and the meat was tough. Kaibara winced, chewing. Kaibara wanted the flesh of a young girl. His tongue licked his bloody lips. Cybernin, clutching his sword, decides to show himself. His armor jingled with every step. Teeth approach the ground, grinding on the stones, and the man makes a tiger strike on them, his fist whistling through the air. The guy was laughing, he rolled with laughter, and he had strength, because his body is strong because of the golems that he ate. His muscles played under the skin. Sibrin decides to show all his power. His eyes were burning with rage, because the enemy does not deserve mercy. His sword flared up with blue flames. Tama comes to them, her hair fluttering in the wind, and she tears her dress to help her father, although they shout at her not to interfere, because she will not replace Leon. Her face is distorted with pain. Kojika, adjusting his glasses, says that the prince's name was Leon and it was he who was supposed to inherit the throne, because he was famous for his bravery and everyone believed that they would bring good. His portrait hung in every hall. Unfortunately, 10 years ago, on the night of a terrible storm, the carriage crashed and he did not return. His name became a symbol of loss. The king took death hard, his eyes went out, and all this time he was alone. His throne seemed too big. Tama cut her hair, her curls fell to the floor, because she wants to take Leon's place and calm her father's heart. Her hands clenched into fists. Unfortunately, no matter how much she wanted to help, they still had a conflict, their voices merging into one loud argument. The man screamed, waving his arms, that her martial arts were bad, his words cutting like a knife. They wanted to bite Tama's jaws, their sharp teeth glistening, but the father pushed them away and his hand was cut off, blood spurting out like a fountain. Kaibara accidentally ate his hand, chomping, and eventually the old man took it, his bony fingers squeezing the trophy. He decides which cut to start with, his knife sliding through the meat. A man flies to the guys, his cloak fluttering like wings, and gives Tama. She was unconscious, her body hanging limply. All the people were in a panic, their screams filled the square, because the majesty was tied up, his crown was lying in the dirt. Kaibara greets everyone, waving his bloody hand, and says that he has become the ruler of a new country, and he wanted only one thing, namely their meat, only women and children. His voice sounded like the grinding of metal. One of them decided to protest, stepping forward, but he was eaten, his scream was cut off in mid-sentence. No one could escape, because guards were posted everywhere, their spears blocked all the exits. Tama wakes up in the girl's bed in the house, the sheets smelled of lavender. Leaving the house, she is told that a man has captured the palace, her face turned white with horror. She decides to run, her legs carried her on their own, but she is held, strong arms clasped her waist, but she wants to protect the country and the inhabitants. Her voice trembled with despair. They decide to go to the battlefield, their shadows lengthened in the light of the setting sun. The enemies, baring their teeth, said that they would be killed, because they couldn't come here. Their laughter sounded like the cawing of crows. The protagonist explains, crossing his arms on his chest, that they came here to be eaten, and the ruler's speech was astonishing, because everyone is thinking about how to die, and after listening to his speech, he decided to die like that. His words hung in silence. The enemies, scratching their heads, think about what to do with him, and in the end they are put behind a cage, the iron bars shone coldly. The protagonist gives the boy a needle, its tip shone in the darkness. The princess escaped, her dress flashed between the trees, when they came to her. 2 goblins came, their green faces twisted in grins, and said that they wanted to be eaten, their voices sounded like the creak of unlubricated wheels. Siberian fought with his son, his sword glittering in the sunlight, and ordered him to stand up, his voice booming like thunder, because he was the future king, and he had to be strong. The girl wanted to fight too, her fists clenched with impatience, but only the boy was allowed, and she had to put on a dress, silky and uncomfortable, and red, sitting in the stuffy library. Kojika combed her hair, her fingers carefully untangling the strands, asking about her father, because she also wanted to learn martial arts, her eyes burning with a dream. Her father called her stupid, his words cut like a knife, and Tama decided to fight him, her feet firmly planted on the ground. The enemy was strong, his blows were precise and cruel, and she was hurt by his blows, each blow echoed with fiery pain. In the end she landed in the wall, the bricks crumbling under her weight. The boys walked down the hallway, their footsteps echoing on the stone walls, and thought about the prison where they spent many a night. Sensei entered the room, his eyes quickly scanned the room, and found a medal lying in the dust, and also opened the cabinets, his fingers gliding over the wooden doors, and needed help. Nira, There was a book, its pages yellowed with time. Kaibara makes a tiger strike, his hand moved with incredible speed, a lion's claw, and she falls to the ground, her body shaking with pain. She had insignificant martial arts, according to him. He laughed, watching her try to get up. Leon trained a lot, his body was covered in sweat, although he had no talent and did not love, but he had to become strong and protect the country like his father. His eyes were full of determination. Tama stands up again. Her knees were shaking, even though they were shaking. If it were Leon, he would never give up. Her voice sounded hoarse. The guy was laughing. His laughter was carried through the hall, because when he came across such lively meat, he felt alive. His heart beat faster. In that world, he was like a dead man. He lived in a big house and his parents bought him everything he wanted. His room was filled with expensive trinkets. The best dishes were on the table. Their aroma filled the room, and he himself felt that with each bite something was dying, until he thought how much he wanted to feel alive. His fingers were shaking. He stabbed his maid with a fork. Her scream deafened him, and his wish was not fulfilled, and so he remained not alive. His eyes were empty. They said about him that he was a happy man. Their voices sounded false, and they were just blind fools who did not see his pain. He also beat up homeless people. His fists were bloody, because they were stupid jokers. Their laughter irritated him. He was the most miserable. His soul was drowning in darkness, and then he was run over by a Kamaz. His body was smeared on the asphalt. In this world, he could eat whatever he wanted. His stomach was never empty, and he also wanted Tama's juicy meat. His tongue licked his lips. As suddenly, the main character comes. His shadow covered Kaibara, and his story offended the ear. His words were like a whip. The guys were also standing behind. Their faces were distorted with anger, and they said that he was finished. Their voices merged into one menacing murmur. Sensei did not want to send him back home. His eyes were cold, because he was unworthy. His life was worth nothing. After that, a powerful blow occurs. His fist whistled through the air, and he decides to kill everyone. His eyes burned with madness before biting the girl. His teeth glistened. She considered herself guilty. Her lips trembled, because if Leon were alive, it would be a different question. Her tears fell on the ground. He gives her a book. Its cover was worn, and asks to read it, because her fate deserves better. His voice sounded soft. Kaibara made attacks. His body moved with inhuman speed, and became electrified. His hair stood on end. The guy called her unhappy. His words were like poison, and her father suffered, and then decided to become a prince in place of Leon. Her shoulders sagged. No one appreciated her, and her father simply avoided her. His gaze slid past. Then she finally lost her way. Her steps were uncertain, and her mother left advice. Her words sounded in her memory. We see that her mother said, her voice was warm, that her life is only hers and she should live it herself, as she pleases, and most importantly, not to worry, because her father wants to see her happy. Her hand stroked her daughter's head. She could be a princess or a warrior. Her dreams were torn between the two paths, and she had to make a choice. Her heart was beating faster. The first and second could hardly be called her. Her face was distorted with pain, and therefore she must write her own story. Her fingers clenched into fists. Leon looked at her seal. His eyes were full of surprise, but they decided not to tell his father, because he was against it. His face became stern at the mention. Siberian has not seen the light on Tama's hand since that day. His eyes have gone out, and it is all because of him, because of the fear that something will happen to her. His hands were shaking. She has found a new life. Her eyes were shining, but Kaibara believed that he would be better. His grin was irritating. The protagonist lights a cigarette. The smoke swirled around him, and they will still see who will be justified, and in front of him is a fearless girl. Her gaze was firm. Tama hits him. Her fist whistled through the air, and then makes more blows. Her body moved like a whirlwind, and in the end they make a seal on him. His skin smoked, because of which he bled and fell to the ground. His scream deafened everyone. She falls. Her strength left her, but Siberian catches her. His arms were strong. Annette heals her. Her hands glowed blue, because she was very cool. Her smile warmed. The protagonist gives him the book. Its pages rustled, and the father is grateful that he saved his daughter. His voice trembled. We see that a monster emerged from the enemy. His body changed beyond recognition, and he did not understand why he was reborn. His eyes were full of horror. He was one of the 7 heroes. His name once thundered throughout the kingdom, and secretly from everyone he made a piece of the prince's flesh. His hands were covered in blood. He was overwhelmed with strength, and he became a predator of this world. His laughter sounded like the grinding of metal. Waldelia cuts off his head. Her sword flashed while he was talking. His words broke off in mid-sentence. She was the daughter of the Prince of Darkness. Her eyes burned with a cold fire, and she was told that her father's meat was very tasty. Their voices sounded mockingly. After these words, he was killed completely out of anger. His body was torn into pieces. The main character comes to her. His steps were silent, and asks if it became easier after the death of the enemy. His voice sounded quiet. After that, she flies away, her wings spread, but decides to finish him off later. Her eyes narrowed. Morning comes, the sun rose above the horizon, and people finish everything that was broken. Their voices sounded cheerful. Tama sits and looks out the window, her eyes reflected the sky. When her father asks her to go with friends on a journey, his hand lay on her shoulder, but to return when he has completed his path. His voice sounded warm. The girl runs out of the window, her laughter rang, and promises that she will become a good warrior. Her words were carried by the wind. The father held the book, his fingers trembling, and smiled, remembering his dead relatives. His eyes were wet. They were dragging the coffin again, its wood creaking, and Nir did not know how to drag coffins properly. His movements were clumsy, and the girl ran after them, her hair fluttering in the wind. They came to a larger tree, its trunk so wide that 5 grown men could not embrace it, and everyone was happy. Their laughter echoed around, because there was no other tree like it in the entire kingdom. The tree was sacred, its branches stretched to the very clouds, and it blessed the people, giving them health and luck, and the inhabitants lived in harmony, their faces glowing with happiness. They came to a casino, where the air was thick with tobacco smoke, and the people were angry, losing their last coins, their fists clenched in powerlessness. Sensei's sleeping pills were gone, the empty bottle lay at his feet, and he wanted to hang himself because of it, his fingers nervously fiddling with the rope. They decided to go to the village headman. His hut was on the outskirts of the village, and the boy was gnawing on stones from the road, his teeth grinding from the strain. Their village was quiet, birds sang here in the mornings, but a few months ago aliens settled in. Their strange clothes stood out among the locals, and they built a mountain house. Its walls were carved directly into the rock. Then bandits settled in. Their faces were covered with scars, and they had to forget about peaceful life. Their eyes went dull. With the appearance of aliens, the tree began to weaken, its bark cracked, and the leaves began to turn yellow, falling to the ground. Because the tree was saddened by the situation, its branches drooped. Yamada came to them, his sword was hanging on his belt, and asked him to save himself. His voice was shaking, and he was also an alien, and he wanted to bring peace here. His eyes were shining with hope. The main character went to the casino. His steps were uncertain, because his body began to get stronger due to the fact that he did not take pills. His muscles burned from the unusual strength. Debauchery and vice emanated from the cave. People smoked strange herbs there and rested. Their eyes were cloudy. And this is what he was looking for himself, so that they would not be greedy. His lips stretched into a grin. The girl touches his lips, her fingers were soft, and offers to go to another establishment. Her voice sounded like a whisper. They come to a bar that smelled of beer and fried meat, and he says that he wants to drive himself into the grave. His words hung in the air. Esh decides to give him a sweet and unforgettable dream. Her eyes sparkled, because she was a dancer. Her movements were mesmerizing. The girl gets up and begins to dance her dance to the music. Her hips swayed smoothly, and tonight was wonderful for him. His eyes closed with pleasure. Annette cried near the stove. Her tears dripped onto the hot coals. Because the master was gone, his tracks ended at the river. Esh sawed the man off, putting him on the floor. His breathing was even, and left, her cloak rustling behind her. She was a witch. Her knowledge was ancient, and she communicated with otherworlders. Their language was familiar to her, and then she built a tavern for them, where they could feel at home. Everyone thought she was good. Her smile was warm. But in the end she seduced and danced for people. Her body was a weapon. While she had a lot of gold, her chest was bursting with coins. Morning came, the sun was shining in his eyes, and the protagonist was leaving, rubbing his temples, because he didn't remember that he had contacted anyone. His memory was empty. Yamada explained, his voice sounded patient, that he had been bewitched by a witch. Her spell was strong, but he would come to his senses when they sorted it out. His sword was ready for battle. Sensei came, his shadow fell on the floor, and thanked her. His lips were trembling, because it became easier and he slept normally. His sleep was deep. They drank for the spirit of the world tree to ease his soul. Their glasses clinked. Men came to them, their faces were red from the drink, and asked for drinks. Their voices merged into a loud hum, and the guy shouted at the people that they had spent money in the casino, and did not give him the money. His fists pounded on the table. He also understands, his eyes narrowed, that there are few fools and the profit is falling. His wallet was emptying. Maybe he needs to make another casino. His mind was working fast. Esh heard the dialogue. Her ears caught every word, because they wanted to affect the civilians and for the tree to die. Its leaves were already turning yellow, and from this it would become golden. Their eyes were burning with greed. She was against it. Her heart was beating faster. Although she was offered money, their gold was sparkling on the table. She was thrown to the ground. Her body hit the stones, and the man decided to go and smoke the locals. His laughter sounded ominous. Sensei calls her an angel. His voice was quiet, and then they hear a blow. The walls shook. The casino was broken, its walls collapsed, and Yamada decides to kill them. His sword was sparkling, because they were bothering the locals. Their screams were annoying. The protagonist was in shock. His eyes widened, because his sleep was disturbed and he couldn't stand people shouting about what was right. Their words cut his ears. Yamada called himself busy. His hands were busy, and called the man a blockhead. his words sounded like a blow. He goes to the enemies, his steps were firm, who also ran to him, their eyes burned with hatred. He scatters them, his blows were accurate, and they decide to run, their backs quickly disappeared into the darkness. Esh was behind and she thanks, her voice trembled, for saving the village, her tears sparkled in the sun. Everyone was joyful, their laughter echoed through the streets, because now life will be calm, their children will be able to play outside again. Then the villagers look at the girl, their eyes became cold, and call her a traitor, because she helps aliens and possibly slept with them, their voices sounded like a knife blow. Things are thrown at her, rotten vegetables were thrown at her, so that she would leave, her dress became dirty. Sensei comes and calls them fools, his voice thundered because this girl fought for the peace of these houses, her hands were calloused. He explains, his words were clear, that she worked and tried to make sure that they did not bother the locals, her nights were sleepless. If it were not for her, the village would no longer exist, its walls would have collapsed long ago. The villagers screamed, their faces twisted in anger, calling him worthless, their fingers pointing at him. Esh asks for forgiveness, her voice was quiet, and leaves the village, her shadow lengthening at sunset, and the others laugh and decide to have a celebration, their joy was false. The village itself abandoned the man who helped them, his tracks were quickly covered with dust. The elder decides to sell the grass, his fingers sorted through the stems, because it is a good business, his eyes sparkled with greed, and Yamada to guard the tree, his sword will protect the shrine. The guy felt bad, his body trembled, and he fell to his knees, because the main character was right, his words burned his conscience. Evening comes, the stars lit up in the sky, and Sensei understands that he protected the unfortunate girl, his heart beat evenly. The tree of heaven had lost all its leaves, its branches were bare, and everyone was shocked by this, their faces turned white. Esh came to him and thanked him, her voice sounded warm, that he felt the pain in her heart and let there be at least a moment of peace, her eyes were full of gratitude. In his pocket, pills appeared, their familiar smell hit his nose, which he wanted so much and it was an endless supply, his fingers squeezed the bottle. They walked through the desert, their tracks were quickly covered with sand, and the sun was baking them very strongly, its rays were burning their skin. The protagonist came out of the coffin, throwing back the lid, and was happy, his face was glowing with happiness. They did not know if they had enough experience before going to the temple, their gaze wandered over the horizon. We learn that Nier was from these places, his skin was dark from the sun, and was adapted to such conditions, his eyes were squinting from habit. He decides to tell the rules, his voice sounded confident, that because of the heat, bandits attack only at night, when it is cool, and in the morning it is safe, you can walk safely. When suddenly, people climbed out from behind him, their shadows fell on the sand. They say that they entered the territory of a cool gang, their voices sounded threatening, and therefore let them get money to pass safely, their palms were open. The girls start fighting them, their swords sparkling in the sun, and Sensei is floating because of the heat, his consciousness is clouded. Nier is shaking, his fingers are clutching the hilt of his sword, and he wants to hit them, but if he draws the sword, he will die, because the enemy was a scorpion, its sting sparkling. The protagonist sits on it, his weight crushing the creature, and asks to feed it poison, his voice sounded mocking, after that he is hit with a full dose, but his scorpion hardens, turning into stone. Tora calls him a goat, her voice rang with anger, and runs to kill him, her sword was aimed straight at the heart. The man asks his ally to run away, his hand pointed to the side, because they heard the cry of a wolf, its howl was carried across the desert. Sensei was healed, his wounds were healed, and Nier was hugged so that he would not be sad, his shoulders were shaking. The boy came up, his eyes were full of tears, and asked for forgiveness that he could not save, his voice was shaking. Then he decided to give them a ride, his cart creaked, and they came to the shelter, where the children recognized him and began to hug, their laughter rang out. Aunt Katie also came out, her apron was in flour, and she was glad to see him, her eyes were shining. They were given a lot of delicious food on the table, the aroma filled the room, everyone liked it, their faces were shining. A kind man brought them food, his shadow flickered at the door, and Sensei asked for chemical seasonings, his fingers were shaking. The children were shocked, their mouths opened, that he was in the master's detachment, their eyes widened. They asked to tell a story, their voices sounded impatient, but he began to tell a terrible story, his words made them shudder. There was a howl in the street, its sound cut the ear, and Katie said that the monster went out to hunt, and she should not go outside, her hands were shaking. The protagonist took pills, their taste was bitter, and was outside when Melos flew away from him, his wings rustling. He takes a sword in his hands, his fingers squeeze the hilt, and goes outside, where he met a man with groceries, his bag was full. It was he who scattered groceries for them around the house, his shadow flickered at night, because he loved the smiles of children, their laughter warmed his heart. They sat on a bench, its wood was warm, and talked, their voices merged with the noise of the wind. Nier said that he no longer lived here, his eyes wandered over familiar places, and his parents died when he was still a baby, he did not remember their faces, and his aunt took him into care. Her hands were warm. The sword was inherited from his parents, its blade was shining, and travels to make the children proud. Although it was difficult, his shoulders sagged. The man cried from his story. His tears fell on the sand, because he could not hold back and was glad that the boy was so good, and wanted to become just as kind. His heart beat faster. Morning comes, the sun rose over the dunes, and the man decides to leave. His shadow lengthened, because he only needed to support from the shadows and he had no place among the children. Their faces became sad. Then they went to the oasis, its water sparkled, and decided to collect different food, their bags filled up. Sensei was touched by children by the hair, their fingers were gentle, and because of this he decided to climb into the coffin. His face expressed irritation. The guys brought them cookies under the door, its smell was sweet, and everyone was shocked by the amount. Their eyes widened. Nir slept very soundly at night, his sleep was deep. Katie comes, her steps were fast, and says that he kidnapped Nate. Her voice was trembling. It turns out that the bandits came, their faces were covered, who asked for money for the area, their voices sounded rough. The guys run to them, their feet kicked up the sand, and they begin to fight, their swords sparkled, and Nir was shaking very much, his hands clenched into fists. But the man takes his hand and asks him to hide, his voice sounded firm. The boy cries, his tears dripped onto the sand, because he is too cowardly, his heart beats quickly. The man asks not to be afraid, his eyes were burning, because in the past world he lost the most precious thing because of his legs, his voice was shaking, and now everything will be different, because there is power to protect the boy and finish off the enemies, his fists clenched. He becomes a wolf, his body has changed, and goes to the bandits, whom he finishes off the first time, their screams are cut off. Toru runs away with the boy, their tracks are lost in the sand. He does not understand what he did, his thoughts were confused. The man then tells how he lived alone for many years, his voice was muffled, he lost his parents at an early age and for as long as he can remember, he was always alone, his room was empty. That was until a young man stood up for him, his face glowed with kindness, for the first time since birth he was treated kindly. The boy was beaten, his body was covered in bruises, but he simply ran away from fear and was hit by a car, its headlights blinded him. The protagonist was shocked, his eyebrows rose, that he was telling everything in his favor and let him try to tell honestly. Did he abandon his friend because of his legs? His words cut like a knife. After all, he saw in this not only an excuse, but also a weakness of spirit, his eyes narrowed. Nir takes him by the clothes, his fingers dug into the fabric, and asks him to shut up, because he understands his feelings, because he is the same, but still tries to change, not to lose to anyone, his voice trembled. The man poked him, his finger was hard, and said that he was a good boy and a little more, he would have committed a sin, but because of the boy he stopped, his eyes softened. Around him, pages were created, their paper rustled, because he wanted to protect the orphanage so much, that he drove away bandits and killed monsters around, because he used his power for the good, his heart was pure. Books burn, their flames illuminated their faces, and the children thank him for everything, their voices sounded warm. The man was happy, his smile was sincere, that he managed to meet everyone and disappears, his body dissolved in light. Everyone wondered where he went, their eyes followed the emptiness. The man finds himself in his world, its streets were familiar, and a boy comes to him to help him up, his hand was outstretched. He begins to cry like a child, his tears flowed in streams when he is helped, his heart melted. The girl stood on the balcony, her blonde hair fluttering in the wind, singing a calm song, her voice soft and gentle, while behind her wine was being poured into a crystal goblet, its edges sparkling in the sunset. In the desert there were fights with monsters, their roars echoing across the sands, which were eventually killed, their bodies turning to dust. Wolf was drinking at the time, his face red from the drink, and he asked not to shout, his voice hoarse, because you can't twitch at every little thing, his hand shaking as he held the bottle. The man asked the boy to be quiet, his fingers squeezing the child's shoulder, and let the lizards follow him if they wanted the head, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Wolf makes a storm of lizards, his hands flying up, and everyone was shocked by it, their mouths open in surprise. The enemy began to retreat because of this, their backs quickly disappeared into the distance, and in the tsunami was Sensei in a coffin, his wooden shelter rocking on the waves. The men were drinking at the bar, their glasses clinking, and they were saying that they would lay down the enemies with one hand, their boastful words were carried throughout the hall. Wolf comes up to him, his steps were uncertain, and asks him to stop scolding his boss, his voice sounded tired, and to understand that he also had a lot of work, his eyes were full of fatigue. He was grateful to everyone, his words sounded sincere, and for an elf he fought well, his sword sparkled in battle. Tama and the boy were also eating food, their faces were smeared with sauce, and they were enjoying it, their laughter rang in the air. Esh did not expect to see them in the desert. Her eyes widened in surprise, and the master was also carried into the tornado, his cloak fluttering in the wind. He had a wound on his face, blood was oozing down his cheek, and only because of the coffin he remained alive. Its wooden walls were cracking, and then he lost her, his skin tightened. Wolf comes to them, his shadow fell on the sand, and Melas sees the girl, his heart sank, as well as her charming eyes, and at the same time fell in love, his palms sweated. Sensei orders them to kneel, his voice sounded like a whip, something that almost killed, but he thanked for giving new sensations, his lips trembled. Right now the country was at war with the fallen aliens, their banners fluttered in the wind, and Tama says that she killed one of them, her sword was covered in blood. She is angry and screaming, her voice ringing with rage, that the master is very good, her fists clenched. Wolf is convinced that his strength is not needed, his shoulders slumped, because if they challenge him, he will lose to his crushing magic, his eyes dimmed. He says that the 7 fallen will be beaten by themselves, his words sounded self-confident. Melas was rejected, his face was distorted with pain and he was sad, his hands hung limply. Sengoku comes back, his armor clanking, and says that tomorrow he will not retreat and no one will be able to cope with them, his voice thundered. They are told that the girls must try their strength, their swords were waiting in the sheath. The fallen angel of greed was ready for battle, his wings spread. Melas was sad, his eyes were wet, because he had a heartbreak, and unrequited love is the highest form of affection and let him enjoy his suffering. His fingers squeezed his chest. Sensei decides to find him a lady of the heart, his lips stretched into a grin, because they are both fools, because they are looking for a beloved woman, their hearts beat in unison. They approached Wolf, their steps were quiet, and Melas was happy that he saw his beloved, his face lit up with a smile. They followed them, their shadows merged when he knocked on the house, his fist froze at the door, and they did not let him in, the lock clicked. He says that he will return alive, his voice sounded firm, and the main character leaves, his cloak fluttering, because only a scoundrel would eavesdrop on such a conversation, his steps were quick. A man comes to them, his face was serious, and says that the enemies are coming again and it was necessary to put an end to the war. His sword was already drawn. Wolf also makes attacks, his hands sparkled with magic, and decides to deal with one location himself, his eyes burned with determination. Something was flying towards them, its shadow covered the sun, and it was a dragon that attacked people, its roar deafened everyone. It was Yuriko and she was glad to see him. Her eyes sparkled, and then she took him with magic, her fingers glowed. Ash wanted to help, her hands reached forward, but her strength flowed out because of the magic, her legs buckled. She takes the guy and they fly back, their figures dissolved in the sky. They sit at the table, its wood creaked, and tell him that it was stolen, their voices sounded worried. While calling him mentor, their eyes were full of respect. Femlos was crying, her tears were dripping on the table, and Melas had to support her, his hand was shaking, but he flies away out of fear, his wings spread. Sensei comes to the house, his steps were quiet, where the woman was, her silhouette was visible in the window. Wolf was near the temple, his fingers glided over the ancient stones, and there were many memories there, because the girl spent her youth there, her laughter still sounded in the walls. Ash says that he helped the students, her voice sounded warm, but then began to drown in wine, his eyes went out. Doran did not want to attack, his shoulders sagged, because every warrior counted, his sword was heavy. Tama decides to help them, her eyes were burning with determination. The main character comes with his grandmother, her hand was shaking on his shoulder, while asking not to be distracted, his voice sounded stern. Morning comes, the sun illuminated the field, and they are all getting ready to move out, their armor was ringing. Sensei understands that they did not bring him the thing he asked for, his eyebrows frowned. Toru comes to them and he did not come to fight, his hands were raised in a sign of peace, because they were not going to fight, and also became a bus company, their transport stood nearby, and at night they guard the shelter, their torches were burning. He decides to show what a bus is, his eyes were sparkling, and makes a bus out of a leopard, his magic transformed the beast, asking everyone to jump on, his hand pointed to the door. Sensei is forbidden to sit there, his face is distorted with irritation, and Toru did not want to and he does not have such a word in his vocabulary, his shoulders shrugged. Grandma asks to take her with him, her voice sounded pleading, because she needs to be with him, her eyes were wet. Melas pulls her, his fingers dug into the fabric to make him agree, his face was serious. They arrived at the place and found an unconscious man, his body was spread out motionless on the cold stone floor. Opening the massive oak door, they saw Wolf tied up, his wrists tied with barbed wire leaving bloody marks. Next to him stood Yuriko, Wolf's former student, now turned into a fallen angel with jet black wings, wanting to spend her last minutes with her mentor. With a wave of her bony hand, dozens of glowing skulls appeared and charged with a terrifying screech, their empty eye sockets glowing with green fire. Tama quickly cut down several skeletons with her sword, but the bones immediately began to regenerate, sticking together with dark magic. Yuriko coldly explained that these bone warriors would fight forever, until all opponents breathed their last. Isha knelt before the fallen angel, trying to understand the reason for such hatred for her former mentor. Yuriko only smiled wryly, remembering how she had once been able to do nothing but kill flowers in the garden, having no talent for real battle, but passionately wanting it. Wolf had praised her for her tenacity in the past, but warned her not to drive herself too hard. He had been a wonderful teacher, patient and kind, until another, more talented student came into their lives. With her arrival, the mentor changed beyond recognition, which forced Yuriko to train alone at night, until her hands were bloody. On that fateful day, seeing Wolf gently stroking the head of a new student, something in her broke. Her fingers automatically drew a bloody magic circle in the air, swallowing that girl whole. Taking the bloody ribbon of the dead girl, Yuriko heard Wolf's stifled sobs. Now she realized that she had become a real monster, but instead of remorse, her face was distorted by an even more terrible grimace of hatred. Dark energy thickened around her, forming a new, even more terrible monster. At that moment, the door swung open with a crash, interrupting this nightmare. The guys thought they had won, their faces glowing with joy and relief, but Doran waited, arms crossed over his chest, for the people to return, his eyes cold and calculating. Satchan walked through the desert, her bare feet left traces in the sand, and sang a song. Her voice was quiet and melodious. She approached the palace, its spires were visible in the distance. Melas decides to go to the lady of his heart, his palms were trembling, and gives her flowers, their petals were tender and bright. Then he flies to the main character, his wings folded behind his back to calm him down, his eyes were looking for support. Satchan passes by him, her dress swayed in the wind, and the guy turns around, his gaze frozen on her. She greets him, her lips stretched into a smile, and really got into this world, her eyes shone with surprise. He offers to die together, his voice sounded serious, but she rejects, shaking her head, because there is no more darkness in his eyes, and his face was completely different, calmer. Satchan sees that he has found something more attractive in the world than death. Her gaze slid over his changed expression, and apparently they are not destined for each other. Her shoulders slumped slightly. Morning comes, the sun illuminated the earth, and the boys thanked for the gifts. Their hands were full of treats, and the master did not feel in his place. His gaze wandered, because everything was not as he expected. He drank the pills, their bitter taste filled his mouth, and his whole mouth was in them, his face twisted in bitterness. Nir gives the sword to his uncle, his hands trembled with excitement, and he was in shock, because this blade was too good for him. His fingers carefully ran along the blade, and now he must become a good warrior. His eyes lit up with determination. Sensei decides to die, his face turned to stone, and rides away, his carriage creaking on the uneven road, and all his friends running after him, their cries echoing in the air. Satchan walked towards the boy, her steps were light and she was in a good mood, her lips humming a melody. She expected him to be better, her eyes were looking for changes in him, and he should have been hers, her fingers clenched into fists. Tama is angry, her eyebrows are drawn together, because the master was not visible, her voice trembled with irritation. A man comes to them, his cloak was covered in dust, and they tell him that the hero went to the prince's castle. Their voices sounded anxious. They had a statue where a dragon was running after a warrior, its stone features seemed alive, but it turns out that it was originally different. But Sensei turned them over with a car, his tire tracks remained on the ground. He sped into the sanctuary, his engine roaring, and went into the forbidden place, his shadow dissolved in the darkness. And to get there, you can pass the tests, their rules were carved on ancient tablets. The protagonist drove, his hands tightly gripped the steering wheel, and he was asked to think better of it. Voices sounded like an echo in his head. The test of strength asked him to defeat, his opponent stood unwavering, as well as 3 more people, their silhouettes were visible in the fog. Only one person could pass the dungeon, its walls kept the memory of many losers. The protagonist opens his mouth, his lips parted, because it became smoky, his eyes squinted from the acrid smoke. He is transferred to the girl, his body became light as fluff, because he is the second one who managed to get here, his gaze slid over the surroundings. He was in the land of fairies, where the air shimmered with magical light, and sat on the queen's chest, her breath was warm and calm. Abris ordered to take their gift, her voice sounded like ringing bells, and to grant the wish, her eyes sparkled with mystery. After that, he leaves, his steps were firm. The boys did not know whether the master would continue on his way, their eyes followed the horizon. When suddenly, Sensei flies into them, his cloak fluttering in the wind. He sits down and apologizes for worrying them, his voice sounded sincere. He whistles into the pipe, his lips folded into a tube, because they yelled at him because of the statue, their screams still ringing in his ears. The fairy flies in, her wings leaving a glowing trail behind them, and he asks to put the statue up, his fingers pointing to the right place. The boys were walking towards him, their faces were shining with joy, and the girl was asking them not to hurry, her voice was soft. The master was smiling, his lips were stretched, because it was time for them to move on, his eyes were shining with new hopes.